The most personally rewarding aspect about life in Armenia and my time as a volunteer was being a part of the community that is Armenia. I talked to one of my friends who's a diaspora Armenian. He's lived in Canada, in Belgium, US, and he made the point that, in the West or in the US, Canada, you have to find your community. And it feels sort of artificial, right? It's like, these are the people I work with, these are the people I go to the gym with. Whereas in Armenia, you're in a community by default. So you're surrounded by good people, there's great cafe culture, great restaurants, and it's a very tight-knit community. So Armenians have a very special way about their society in the sense of it's one big family. So whether you're an Armenian or an outsider, they will welcome you equally. And I really appreciate that aspect of life here. The most professionally rewarding about my time with Armenian Volunteer Corps was fully integrating into Armenian work culture and in an Armenian work environment. So for example, at my placement, I was the only non-Armenian there. So I gained a really nice insight and sort of an inside look into what life in Armenia is like, specifically with work. And I really appreciated getting that glimpse into that aspect of the culture, getting to know co-workers, and in turn, getting these local connections and seeing life in Armenia truly from the inside. The funniest moment, there's been a lot of funny moments, both with volunteers and outside of ABC, but one of the funniest moments that stands out to me is when we were on an excursion and we went to the middle of nowhere, somewhere in Lori province, and we were going to go pick corn, gather the corn, and my friend and I decided to go on our own separate excursion while this was going on. There was a really cool cemetery up on the hill, and again, this is in the middle of nowhere, so the bus drove miles off-road. There's nothing in sight, just hills and meadows and mountains. And we walked to the top of the mountain where this really cool cemetery was, and it was an amazing view, and we were about a mile from where everyone was picking corn, just really beautiful. And there was an Armenian man there who was sort of tending the cemetery. He had some livestock with him, and my friend is a diaspora Armenian who speaks fluent, perfect Eastern Armenian. They're conversing, and the guy's just like, what are you guys doing here? And he's telling him we're volunteers, we're from the US. And the guy goes, they brought you from the US to come pick corn in Armenia. And so we all just laughed, and overall really cool experience, and just goes to show how cool the excursions are and everything you can do. So really fun. One of the best aspects about being a volunteer with ABC is having a purposeful place and a purposeful role in Armenian society. And I think this gives us a deeper understanding and deeper insight into a country, into a culture. And because going somewhere as a tourist for a week, you don't really get that insight and that authentic and moving experience. And one specific thing that stands out to me is doing our first community service project, well, my first community service project that I actually got to spearhead with a couple of friends, a couple of fellow volunteers from ABC and Birthright. And this was at Punic Rehab Center. And out of this community service project, not only did we get everyone involved, we got it approved, ABC volunteers came, made a really big difference, helped us out a lot with the work we had to do there. But some of my best friends in Armenia came from this community service project. Both diaspora Armenians who were here from Birthright, some people from ABC, and as well as some locals who owned the center, who worked there. So this was a really cool opportunity to help amazing people, in addition to, getting to know locals and having an awesome experience and making lifelong friends. The biggest surprise about coming to Armenia and being with Armenian Volunteer Corps is how much I fell in love with Armenia. And coming into it, I really did not expect that. I grew up around Armenians my whole life. My hometown has lots of Armenian culture, lots of Armenian influence, so I was familiar with the country, I knew about it, but coming into it and then actually experiencing it and living here was just two separate things, two completely different things, and I did not expect to fall in love with Armenia the way I did. And I think it sort of goes hand in hand with this idea of, reading about something, hearing about it, learning about it is one thing, but experiencing it is just an entirely new realm. And for example, people talk about this with Mount Ararat, for example. Everyone knows it's beautiful. It's almost overhyped, and then you see it in person, and it's more than you could have ever imagined. So that was my biggest and most pleasant surprise coming to Armenia. So for future ABCers coming to Armenia, one of my biggest pieces of advice is just to open your mind and let things go. And I think this is something that travel teaches you in general, because things don't go your way, things are out of your control, there's miscommunications, there's mix-ups, like the rest of life, but I think travel really amplifies this and gives you a really good dose of it. So just be ready to be flexible, open your mind, and I think that's one of the biggest lessons you'll learn, is just learning how to let things go. Another sort of piece of advice, or maybe just more input, is you will learn a lot about yourself and about your own culture and your own country, because not only will you get this great insight into local culture and what is Armenia, who is Armenians, but leaving your country is sort of like the only way to look at yourself in a mirror, so to speak, or look at your culture in a mirror. And you'll get a newfound appreciation, newfound insight for things back home, and you'll also understand how people perceive your culture and just sort of the things that are right and wrong in your own culture that is hard to get that bird's eye view when you're still in your country. So these are a couple of main points that I think you'll take away from your time here. And yeah, just come into it with an open mind, be open, and I think you'll have a great experience, and a lot of doors and avenues will open up, both personally as well as professionally.